Hey guys, I just saw the drama over this weekend, and my quick review is that I thought it was great. A very daring movie with an uncomfortable presentation, but honestly, a poignant and stripping the context of the twist away, simple question at its core. Are people allowed to move on from their past? The movie drifts between funny and sincere, and for the most part, considering Christopher Borgly's other work, is pretty restrained. However, my one real problem with the film is its ending, which doesn't really stick the landing. So let's get into why and what small tweak could have packed even more of a punch. Before going any further, I want to take the moment to ask that you leave a like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. We're a new channel and any engagement helps boost our visibility and is very appreciated. To start our case, I want to briefly touch on why the ending feels a bit mute. And before I go any further, obviously there will be major spoilers for the drama. Setting up this context is important, and so I'm going to get a little detailed with my recap and breakdown, but make sure to stay till the end of this video to get the full context behind the rewrite. In our current ending, after Charlie has a drunken rant alluding to Emma being an almost murderer and he himself having cheated on Emma, which, if that hasn't ruined the wedding itself, ultimately leads to a physical assault that turns everything up to a 12, Charlie then comes home alone, bloodied and battered, plays his calm down song set up earlier in the film, and does his best Joaquin Phoenix dancing in the bathroom impression. Proving again, Robert Pattinson is our best candidate to play the Joker, which is maybe why he's such an interesting Batman. Anyway, he ends up at the diner they discuss going to after their wedding, and eventually Emma shows up. They do their let's start over, nice to meet you for the first time bit, and seemingly are set on the path towards reconciliation and a new beginning. It's nice enough and an uplifting note to end on for an otherwise really disparaging film. There are a lot of setups paid off, and ultimately it fulfills the note of forgiveness and moving on. On paper, everything is fine, but mechanically, it's not running as smoothly as can be. Here's why. Contextually, it's hard to wrap our heads around. This all happens over one day in the span of a couple of hours. It's a lot to take in and process for us as an audience, and should be even more so for the characters within the story. The movie wants there to be this symmetry between Charlie and Emma. They both almost did something bad, but should they be judged for it forever? However, it's a pretty blatantly false equivalency. Everything with Emma was over a decade ago and the past, way before she met anyone in this film. Charlie did cheat on her a day or so before their wedding by making out with his colleague. Sure, it was spur of the moment and under emotional distress, but it seems the film is saying, well, he stopped himself before fucking her, so... Which, that's up for everyone to decide amongst themselves and their relationships. I'm not saying Charlie is an unforgivable monster who needs to be thrown in the gulag, but the comparison between the two characters is not on even footing. So when Zendaya comes in and sits down and is ready to move on, it feels a bit more like a decision for the script rather than one by the character. Now, everyone processes things differently, and maybe the defense is that Emma really thinks she's unworthy because of her past or has been weighed down by this so much and just wants to shed it all, so she's more open to forgiving others. But being cheated on by your husband is a pretty big personal deal, and we don't get to see that moment of decision for Emma where she contemplates her options. We basically need to see her also doing a Joker dance in her parents' hotel. Not actually, but I just mean the equivalent of that scene. Without it, it robs us of being able to emotionally track and fully justify her showing up and being so open. We can have all the headcanon and interpretation we want, but without actually seeing the moment specifically for this character, especially in a movie where so much is revealed and held on the faces of characters in real time, the moment is bound to feel somewhat out of place. Beyond that, the movie has two potential endings before this moment. Either when Charlie is back home after the wedding with his head down on the table and playing his comfort song, you could end right there, or when he gets up and starts comfort swaying in the living room just a few moments later. Now this changes the thematic ending point. Our thesis exclamation point becomes, overthinking and fixation will lead you down a path of despair. It's a tragedy. If Charlie could have just found a way to move past this or reflect on it more steadily, they could have otherwise had a nice wedding and life together, seemingly. The problem was more the thought festering in his head than anything personal against the way Emma treated him. As, after cheating on her and having his own bomb under the table, he's ready to fully move on from the past drama. It's great writing though, the human psychology of it all makes sense, and also he's learning this a few days before his wedding, which is a big financial and legal endeavor that would put intense pressure on the situation. By ending on this point, the movie would be saying even more so than it already is, get over it and focus on what really matters, or risk losing that and being in an even worse place. While I would have been happy with that point of punctuation, I do think it falls a bit in the end on an ambiguous shot of someone staring into the camera, A24 canon that's beginning to border on parody, but I also like ending the story on a point of hope that there is a way out of the pit should we choose openness. So here's the actual pitch. The whole film is hinging on this question of, can people be wholly and honestly open without being measured by a past or set of behaviors they've moved on from and are incredibly remorseful over? So the cure, the ending, needs to be about honesty. And this is why the current meet cute, let's just start over, LOL, doesn't work. Currently, when Emma asks, "Who are you? How'd you get that bruise?" Charlie gives her a joking reply, "I was punched trying to stop a burglary." Emma laughs, and yippee, they're off to new lands. Akira has created a new universe. But this ending works to say, let's move past who we were. We can be anything we want. We're nothing but who we are in front of each other. Which is certainly a take, and not even the worst one that could exist for this movie. But the whole movie has been setting up this catharsis of being fully accepted for who you are now, despite your past. In this case, when Emma introduces herself and asks how Charlie got his bruising, Charlie needs to reply by half-jokingly, fully broken up, and all earnestly saying, "I fucked up. I'm a cheater. I'm sorry." He should briefly recount the night, staring the truth down the barrel, giving the moment an out-of-body observer kind of feeling while still delivering a highly personal moment of vulnerability between the characters. Yeah, we're meeting for the first time in our pretend game, but I'm only going to meet you as I am. I've whipped together this mock monologue for the scene to give a better understanding of what I'm going for. I'm not going to perform it because I'm not an actor and I don't have Robert Pattinson on speed dial. So instead, enjoy this text-to-speech rendition.
I got head-buddied by the really tall, good-looking boyfriend of my secretary who I stupidly cheated on my wife with. Well, actually, she was then my fiancée, but in full transparency we kissed, very aggressively, and her breath reeked of tuna and mine probably wasn't any better, but I stopped it before going any further, and it only happened because I was such an idiot to be caught up in this worry over my wife's past, something so stupid. Well, actually not. It was quite scary really, and strange and a very cringe, disgusting American-coded thing, but I let it distract from the fact that I know who she really is, which is the most gorgeous, earnest, compassionate person in the world, that I love so much so, I think it could kill me. I told her that once in her ear, the one she can't hear in, that she's deaf in because she was practicing for a school shooting, but in that same beautiful ear, all those years later, I told her how much she means to me, and selfishly held on to that moment, and never told her the whole of it. How she is the most magnificent thing on this planet, how she is so much more than I can even see, and only a fool could let anything come in the way of loving her. And that's the worst thing I've ever done.
To which, holding back tears, Emma replies,
"Wow, you've had a really tough night."
They can laugh and roll credits and so on and so on. Now, I whipped this monologue together in 5 minutes. I'm sure Christopher Borgli could write something better or more suited to his taste. And obviously, text-to-speech has got nothing on Pattinson. He could emotionally strike out any dialogue put before him. But you get a feel of what we're trying to accomplish here. You may be thinking this monologue is too overt, but that's because 1, you've sat here listening to me break this whole ending down, and 2, that is literally the point of the monologue, to be overt and unflinching at confronting the truth. We don't have to start over by running away and pretending to be something else. We start over by looking at each other wholly and accepting what we see. I see you. As well, this ending pays even more off. Number 1, it leans on Charlie's rambling quality that we see throughout the film, but mostly during the wedding rant that ruins everything, and this moment is kind of the Mario to that speech's Wario. 2, now Charlie gets to say his wedding speech of sorts and tell the sweet story that made his friend cry earlier. By the way, I don't fully remember what was said in that scene, so I made whatever up for the monologue, but obviously those lines would be tailored to whatever was said there. 3, also the words that got deleted in Charlie's speech, like earnest and compassionate, come back to play. But finally, and most importantly, Charlie finally says the worst thing he's ever done after his cop-out cyberbullying answer, which relates to the whole damn turning point of this film. It turns this rom-com trope on its head, and by doing so, packs a punch felt in the heart and gut. Well, that's it for this video. Let me know what you thought of the drama and its ending down in the comments, as well as the proposed changes. I'm just throwing around some ideas and would love if you exchanged your own. Again, make sure to subscribe, like, and share if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Theme Addict signing out.